Hey, welcome in everyone to Dom Time. Big story this week is Michigan going right to work. We've defined what that is. We've talked a little bit about Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and in studio, we're doing that with, from Pennsylvania Right to Work, John Featherman. But how about the 30,000 foot level? How about at the national level? Joining us is Greg Morad. Greg is with the National Right to Work Committee. Greg, thanks for joining us here in Philadelphia today.
Happy to be with you, Dom.
Well, this is a huge win. This is like 5 Super Bowls. Give viewers a sense of the significance of a place like Michigan going right to work.
Well, this is a huge deal because if Michigan has long been seen, of course, as a stronghold of big labor in the UAW, and a lot of people around the country that have always been reluctant to take on this issue are now looking and saying, hey, if Michigan can see the light and do this, there's no reason we can't do it here too.
Well, they're not saying that in Pennsylvania. I'm sitting across from the governor doing my radio show, and that's where all hell broke loose because he said there's no drive for that in Pennsylvania. Let me ask you, guys at the National Right to Work, you have the dartboard there and you hit Philadelphia with a dart. Do you go, that's the jackpot of jackpots, or is this one of the real diehard labor citadels?
This is one of Pennsylvania is one of the what has historically been considered the less likely places to pass a right to work law. But I think that as the American people have long supported right to work, even in Pennsylvania, it polls somewhere between 75 and 80% when you explain the issue to them.
Yeah,
it is common sense. It's freedom. It's a simple freedom issue. And even your governor there, he sounded actually a lot like Governor Snyder. It's not the highest thing on my agenda, but if they get it to me, I'll sign it.
That's a nice takeaway. You have the positive outlook around that. What are some of the other states, Greg Morad, that you see that viewers should know are in play coming up in the pretty immediate future where there might be this type of thing going on again?
Yeah, I think we could see active efforts. We are seeing active efforts to pass right-to-work laws in places like Ohio, Wisconsin, Missouri, Montana, New Hampshire, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, of course. And beyond that, we'll move on to the rest of the 26 that still need it.
Ohio, everyone knows the significance in presidential politics and politics in general. Talk about how this has a political mechanism too. It's not just good for workers and employers, but if the union can't get those mandatory dues, many times they don't even have to collect them. That was a big battle in Wisconsin, Greg, for viewers, where one of the provisions there is if you're a union, you have to go and collect your own money. The state shouldn't do it for you. Talk about the significance of that.
Sure, that is a huge deal. One of the most odious things about the whole forced dues scheme is what the union does with that money, and that is nearly $1 billion, more than $1 billion now, every election cycle gets funneled into the union's political machine, going to fund the union's political choices, which are often radically different from the choices of the actual union members who are forced to produce the money. And it goes all the way back to Thomas Jefferson, was quoted saying that to force a man to subsidize the propagation of ideas that he disbelieves is sinful and tyrannical.
Yes, but Thomas Jefferson, if he came back to downtown Philadelphia, might have the hell beaten out of him now, Greg. I mean, I've seen it myself, and we saw it play out in Michigan. But even with all that pressure in Michigan, the governor and others did sign it. We see that Scott Walker was reelected out there. So what is it all of a sudden, and I'll ask John Featherman here in Pennsylvania with us. Greg, you first. What's happened all of a sudden? Is there any causal element that's sparking this? Is this like the Arab Spring or something on right to work?
Well, one of the big causal elements is the growth over the last few decades of government sector unionization,
right,
which is an idea that old-time proponents of the union movement like FDR and even George Meany, the former AFL-CIO president, thought was unthinkable back 30 or 40 years ago, because there is no mechanism in place when you unionize the government to control costs. The unions end up taking that forced dues war chest and electing their own bosses, and it's sitting on both sides of the bargaining table, driving cities across the country into bankruptcy, and the places that have had it the longest are in the worst financial shape, and people are beginning to wake up and realize that we can't go on like this. And that was a big part of what spurred the Wisconsin effort behind Scott Walker, and that served to wake up a lot of people as to what's going on in this country.
Hey, Greg, thank you very much. Thanks for giving us. I hope we see you in Pennsylvania sometime soon.
So do I.
Remember, if you're in Philadelphia, though, duck. John Featherman is in Philadelphia. John, I wanted to link it to something to give people a sense of hope, I guess. Not just the labor movement, but the Democratic Party routinely getting 83, 84% in mayor's races in Philadelphia. The loyal opposition. Tell viewers what that is and the inroads you're trying to make to have a viable Republican Party in Philadelphia.
Absolutely. Well, the loyal opposition is a new breed of Republicans. We started out as an email list. We then became meetings that we had around town. And we are the new Republican Party in Philadelphia. We have candidates that have won before, such as the City Commissioner Al Schmidt. We've got David O on board in City Council. And we have really mobilized Philadelphia, and we're going to have some great candidates over the next few years that are really going to question the one-party system that's existed in Philadelphia for 60 years.
The argument I make with viewers, do you share that what happens with the Mike Meehan's, Vito Canusos, the guys that are running it right now, we have a Republican Party, right? There's something on their door, but they're satisfied to take whatever Democrats give them and to go along with it.
Well, let me say that we're trying to work as one Republican Party this year. We had a battle last year. We're trying to work together now.
Okay.
Because ultimately, we've got to look out for the best interest of Philadelphians. Philadelphians right now do not have a check and balance system. We need to have a check and balance system to make sure that the people that we bring in as our school superintendents, as our CFOs, are properly vetted. We need to have a check and balance to make sure that our elections are honestly run, not run by people who are campaigning for candidates at the same time that we run the elections. So we're about providing solutions to people in Philadelphia, and we're seeing that happen because our people are getting elected.
John Featherman, thanks for joining us in studio today. You wear many hats and you wear them well. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Thanks very much. Coming up here on Dom Time, my chance, unvarnished, to talk about something that happened this week that I have a definitive opinion on. And my big topic this week, Phil Martelli, the coach of St. Joe's, my hero of the week, doing the right thing when one of his players showed the single digit to Villanova supporters at a big game. That's straight ahead on Dom Time. Hey everyone, this is the chance each week that I have to recognize someone or maybe to point out someone who did something wrong. What happened this week is we had St. Joe's versus Villanova, the so-called Holy War, hotly contested game, and one of the players on St. Joe's hit a three-point shot, raised three fingers, and then dropped two of those fingers, and that one finger, the single digit, the famous single digit, was pointed toward the Villanova cheering section, which had been kind of tepid until that point. They erupted. Villanova won the game. In the aftermath of this, one day later, St. Joe's coach, Phil Martelli, who I think is a teacher coach, disciplined the player, gave him a two-game suspension, suspended until December 31st. I think that's commendable. Martelli talked about the teachable moment. This was a teachable moment. Distressing. I had a number of people call me, including women, who didn't get it, why it might not be the appropriate thing in the middle of a college basketball game to give the finger to an entire section and to boot a Catholic college. Phil Martelli, great job, hero this week, and hopefully the student has been contrite. He'll learn from this. The bottom line is, don't be giving the finger out there. Hey, thanks to Universal Dentistry for bringing us Dom Time this week, each and every week. I'll be back with you next week here on Dom Time.